For the first time in U.S. history, the entire federal government has unified in the fight against climate change thanks to President Joe Biden's policies. His administration has allocated hundreds of billions of dollars towards clean energy and enforced new regulations to reduce emissions from cars, oil wells, and power plants. Biden's policies have not only focused on environmental preservation, but also have strategically been designed to appeal to the public, especially through tax breaks that have incentivized clean energy investments, job creation, and economic growth. One of the most significant impacts of Biden's policies have been in conservative regions, where voters have historically been skeptical of climate change. Nevertheless, the introduction of clean energy jobs and tax incentives have fostered an unexpected level of support. However, these policies' survival is uncertain. Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, has promised to roll back on these regulations if elected, referring to them as a Green New Scam and pledging to abolish restrictions on coal power plants and production of electric vehicles, or EVs. In contrast, Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, has remained firm on her stance for protecting these climate measures. The IRA has laid a foundation of 10-year tax credits, which have unlocked capital investments across various sectors, including solar panel manufacturing, sustainable aviation fuel, and EV batteries. Notably, most of this capital has flown into traditionally conservative districts, which could make it politically challenging for any administration, even one led by Trump, to rescind these tax credits. Bob Keefe, the executive director of clean energy advocacy group E2, has pointed out that the architects of these policies designed them to withstand political attacks. Trump would require Congress's help to abolish these tax credits, and with so many Republicans' districts benefiting from clean energy investments. Any attempt to undo the IRA would likely fracture party unity. Even if Congress doesn't repeal the tax credits entirely, a Trump administration could slow down the momentum by revising Treasury Department rules on eligible projects. By making it easier to claim credits for technologies favored by Republicans, such as carbon capture, and more difficult for renewable energy projects, Trump could significantly reduce the impact of these incentives. Biden's climate policies have already seen billions of dollars in grants and loans distributed to clean energy projects across the country. Despite Trump's threats to redirect this money towards traditional infrastructure projects like roads and bridges, the Biden administration has been quick to distribute as much funding as possible before a potential change in leadership. Trump's return to office could jeopardize the Department of Energy's Loans Programs Office, which has been instrumental in financing clean energy ventures. However, some conservatives suggest that the office might continue to operate, but with a shift in priorities, focusing on projects tied to fossil fuels and nuclear power instead of renewables. One of Trump's main targets has been the push for EV adoption. If re-elected, he has vowed to undo the EPA's regulations that compel automakers to produce more EVs and hybrids while reducing conventional gas-powered vehicles. Trump would have the authority to weaken these regulations, although the process would be lengthy. The expansion of EV tax credits under the IRA could also be undermined by the tightening eligibility rules, further slowing the growth of the EV market. One of the most vulnerable Biden-era regulations under a Trump presidency would be the restrictions on carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. Trump has promised to reverse these measures and reinstate lenient regulations that allow coal plants to operate with fewer restrictions. The methane emissions policy targeting oil and gas companies, another key climate incentive, could also be dismantled. In summary, the upcoming election holds high stakes for the future of the U.S. climate policy. While many of Biden's climate policies are resilient, particularly the tax credits under the IRA. Others are highly vulnerable. A return to office for Trump could slow or reverse the progress made over the last few years, especially in areas like EV incentives, offshore wind, and power plant regulations. However, some aspects of the Biden administration's efforts, especially those that have already been implemented, are likely to endure regardless of the election's outcome.